to Beauty in the D, hosted by yours truly, Stephanie Coney, where we focus on power, wealth, and style. Oh, excuse me. It's such a brisk day today on this Saturday. Oh my goodness, I totally did not dress for the weather. I did not dress properly, but I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, to Giovanni McCall, also known as G, the short hair slayer, who typically keeps me slayed. Also to Mina Martinez, who handles all of my social media marketing, and last but not least, to the London consulting and insurance firm that powers and sponsors this show. So I have phenomenal guests every week on the show. So of course this week I delivered another phenomenal, very influential in the city of Detroit guest. So I'm going to get right into it. Today I have Miss Karina Jackson. She is currently the Chief Operations Officer for Mariners Inn, which is a human services organization that provides services to men and their families in the city of Detroit, Michigan. Mariners Inn was founded in 1925 by the Diocese of Michigan. Miss Jackson supervises the residential and housing programs as well as the facilities department. She has assisted with the creation and implementation of the residential youth prevention program, the peer mentoring program, the social enterprise program, and the SHE, which stands for Strong, Healthy, Empowered program. Ms. Jackson has a very diverse background that includes nonprofit management, program staff, excuse me, program development, staff wellness, and entrepreneurship. And in 2002, Karina co-founded Youth Vision, another nonprofit organization that provided after-school programs and summer camp to more than 400 youth in Southwest Detroit. In 2008, Karina worked as the volunteer and election day coordinator on the campaign for Chantel Jenkins for Detroit City Council. Ms. Jenkins won the election in 2010, and Ms. Jackson became her chief of staff and worked with the council members on the Youth Violence Prevention Task Force, General Pension Board, and various committees. Ms. Jackson has been a participant of the following fellowships: the German Marshall Memorial Fund Fellowship in 2013, the Leadership Detroit Class 37 2016, 92Y Ford Foundation 2016, and W.K. Kellogg Center for Creative Leadership Class 2019. Karina recently began sharing her story of overcoming physical and mental barriers while maintaining a life of rest and peace. She considers herself a wellness activist and is determined to push the envelope and dismantle the norms of what society deems as health and wealth. She's currently working on a certification as a wellness coach, and her journey can be followed at Just Karina Jackson on Instagram. Thank you so much, and welcome to Beauty and the Day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you here, and you look so beautiful
Thank
today.
you. Thank you. It
I
was a
love that
struggle.
blue.
Thank
I
you.
can't tell who's a struggle you came through.
Thank you.
We're going to get into the rest of your personal bio in just a sec. We're trying to kind of cover that as we, go through our interview
Okay.
today. But what you have done in our community, I mean, it so fits well with the title of Power, Wealth, and Style.
Absolutely.
So, first of all, I want to tell everybody how I met you.
Yes.
We were at a networking event sponsored by WJZZ,
Yes.
where we were networking at Bricks. And, we just talked to one another, and we just kind of felt each other's vibe.
Yes.
And you told me what you did. And I just fell in love with just that part, the Mariners Inn.
Yes.
And then that led to us coming to volunteer, our organization, Greater Detroit Realtors
Yes.
Association, coming to volunteer at this wonderful facility that you are the COO of.
Yes,
So
thank
let's
you.
kind of talk about that, because this was my first time ever coming to a shelter or a program like that, if you will. So you really broadened my eyes and perspective.
Good. I'm
And
glad.
thank you for allowing me to serve.
Yes. And what we try to do is try to change the narrative of what people think a homeless person looks like or acts like.
Yes.
So the group that did a panel with you all was very diverse
Yes.
in race, education. Some of them had master's degrees. I mean, a bachelor's degree.
Thank you for that.
Yes, somebody was in college. It was somebody who was brand new there. So it showed the dynamic of what homelessness this looks like. It's
Mhm.
different for everybody. It can be you sleeping on a friend's couch, or it can be like the one man that said he slept in the building for
Yes.
3 years.
For 3 years.
For 3 years.
It caught on fire.
Yes, and then he decided it's time for me to get my
It's
life
time.
together. Yeah,
Maybe
so I
that was God speaking. To him
absolutely,
through that
especially he said he
fire.
was in a church and it was a
Yes.
church that caught fire.
Yes.
So it might have been divine intervention at that
It
point.
might have been.
And I think also them telling the story tells the story of Mariners Inn because we talk about all the time recovery is real and it begins at Mariners. And recovery is different for everybody that comes there. So not everybody there is a drug addict or alcoholic. Some are just homeless. Some have mental health issues.
Yes, and that's an issue.
That's a huge issue, and a lot of times it leads to homelessness, especially when it comes to vets. So I love that you all were able to come out.
Yes.
It was a great opportunity for the men. The men are still thanking me for having an opportunity to talk
Are
to
you
you all.
serious?
Yes, yes.
We enjoyed the opportunity. And first of all, let me go back to that panel. So we talked about this last Saturday we had the Building Black Wealth
Oh, good.
conference. And one of Drake, one of the gentlemen that came and volunteered with us,
Yes.
he works for the bank. And so he talked about how it was a humbling experience for him as well. I love the way that you put that panel together. It was 5 people, so it was a perfect number.
Yep.
And it was just what you said. It was diverse. You had young, you had old, you had white, you had black,
Arab.
and Arab.
Yes.
You know, so you're right. People, y'all, homelessness is not what we think.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so you allowed us to go on the tour. You guys literally take in homeless people. It was so many beds, people like lined up, and there's people with all of their. You weren't with us on the
Yeah.
tour, but you worked it. So
Yeah,
you know.
right.
But to look and see like all of their belongings in a
Yes.
plastic bag.
In a plastic bag. That's what they come with. A week's worth of clothes. Most of them come with a week's worth of clothes. And through that process, that's where they start, but that's not where they end up. So Amir talked about how if you go and you stay there and you're able to get into outpatient, and then you can turn around and get housing and education and employment.
And turn your life around.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So that is the goal for all of the men who come through our program. But we also work with families and young ladies that don't live there, but we're also able to help them with prevention services. We do outpatient treatment services. So there's opportunities for all family members to receive services through Mariners Inn.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Something else I learned in that panel discussion was that addiction begins before you even pick up a substance.
Absolutely. A lot of times it's triggered by trauma. It's triggered by trauma. And
Because
all of
we
us.
don't deal with it.
Absolutely.
Especially in our community. We're taught to sweep it under the rug. And I have a bad addiction. I know mine is nothing near, probably to that. I'm addicted. Like I told him, I'm addicted to cigarettes.
Yep. That's
know
an
what I'm
addiction.
saying?
That's a legitimate addiction.
It is because it's not like I haven't tried to quit before.
Exactly.
And I end up back on the cigarettes. So
Yes.
I learned that. I also learned that alcohol and gambling is a bigger addiction than many of us think because it's so accessible.
Absolutely. Alcohol
I didn't
is
know
actually more detrimental to your body than a lot of other drugs are. People don't realize that either. Alcohol causes more health issues.
Really?
And gambling, online gambling really blew up during the pandemic.
Yeah,
Because-
was bored.
Exactly. Casinos were closed and people started gambling. But what a lot of parents don't realize is your kids are taught how to gamble early on by playing games like Roblox and things like that. That start to put in their mind gambling without them realizing they're starting that process.
And thank you for that because
Yes.
parents listen.
Yes.
It starts here before they even pick
Pick it up.
So
Absolutely.
Thank you for educating me on that.
Yes.
Now you've been with the Mariners Inn for 17 years.
Yes, absolutely.
You're obviously passionate about what you do.
Yes. Yes.
How did you end up even working there?
It's so funny because, and I talk a lot when I talk to groups about how important volunteering is and having a good mentor.
Yeah.
The last 5 jobs I've had, I didn't interview for. It was people saying, I want you to come join my team. Or I did the job for free and I ended up staying on board. So I actually went to Mariners Inn because of Santel Jenkins. Santel was a director there at the time.
Okay.
And I was in graduate school, and she said, we have a job for a vocational counselor here. And I'm like, excellent. I didn't want a job that was too stressful because I was in school. So I started out at Mariners as a vocational counselor. I would help the guys find jobs. I did tutoring classes.
And you had never done that kind of work before?
Never. I'd always done work. I was an insurance agent before.
Okay. What kind of insurance? Property and casualty,
Yes,
like that.
property and casualty.
Okay.
And life and health. I did both.
Okay.
And I worked for a younger gentleman who was only a couple years older than me, but
Okay.
he worked in investment. So we worked together. So that was my entrepreneurship, is learning
Yeah.
how to do that. And then I started my own nonprofit. And through that, I realized this is where my life's work should be, with helping people.
What was the nonprofit that you started?
It was Youth Vision, which that started out when I finished undergrad. I wanted to mentor a young girl. So I went to an organization called the Guidance Center, signed up for the mentoring program, and the young lady who was a coordinator ended up leaving, and she and I started a nonprofit.
Okay.
And we work with young kids and after school programs and summer camps, and it was like the best time of my life. I made no money, but I love what I did.
You were passionate about it.
Yes, absolutely. And I still see kids, well, they're adults now, that was like, Miss Karina, you worked with me when I was in school. Nobody wanted to work with me. That's what's more important. Like,
What
if you could impact one
inspired
person.
you to do that? How did you even,
I don't even know. I think I just always felt like, you live your life. And my cousins and I were talking the other day. We lived. We partied. We did all kind of stuff. So I have things I can share. I felt like I could share with young people. I'm much older now, but when I was in my 20s, I'm like, I need to share this with somebody.
Yeah.
So mentoring led to me leading a nonprofit, which eventually led me to Mariners. So I went to Mariners, did vocational counselor, was promoted to a director when I got my degree. Then I went to work for Santil for the city for a year and a half, and then I was asked to come back to Mariners. The COO at the time, David Sampson, who I love to death, became the CEO, and he said, I need somebody on my team that I can trust.
So that's trust. You took the word.
Yeah.
That's real
Yes.
trust right there for somebody. Hey, I need you back.
Yeah, it was a whole
That says a lot.
conversation in a parking lot somewhere. Like, look, you're gonna have to leave here and go over there, and and when you're in that position where people trust you,
Yeah.
you're able to negotiate
Yep.
your salary. You're
Yeah.
able to create the environment that you want to work in because somebody's asking you to be there.
Right.
So that changes the dynamic.
The whole dynamic.
It does. It does.
So what advice would you give to somebody? Because I always tell people, when you're passionate about something like how I am about running my business, I'll do it for free. Hell,
Yes,
it's
you would
plenty
do it
of
for
months
free.
I have done it
Yeah,
for free, okay?
absolutely.
But what advice? Because I was speaking to someone just this week, and they were saying they were talking about an event that I had put together, and it was like, Stephanie, you could have got paid for that. You could have. And I said, well, silly me, I wasn't thinking about getting paid. I was thinking about helping.
Right.
So, can you talk to somebody who thinks, maybe I'm tired of doing this free or volunteer? What type of things can come out of that when you genuinely?
And you said it yourself. You said you got to be passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll do it for free, then you can negotiate what you'll do it for pay. But you got to show and prove by doing the work. And a lot of times people don't want to do that, especially young people.
Do the work.
They want to get paid without doing the work. You got to show what you're able to do.
Pay your dues.
You have to. But also what we have to understand as Black women is what our worth is.
Ooh,
And
say
what
that
we're
again.
willing to charge and what people are willing to pay for our services. For so long, we haven't done that. That's why I make sure whenever I receive services, I make sure I tip people to let them know I appreciate them.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to do this. You're making a choice to be an entrepreneur. It's hard to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too. It's two things you should do in life, in your career, besides volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have your own business, if you don't work, you don't eat. If you've never experienced that, you don't know how important a paycheck is.
Yeah.
So you should be an entrepreneur, even if it's selling Avon, selling drink, whatever it is, be an entrepreneur. But also, and even though we're in a dumpster fire right now, you should work for a political campaign at least once in your life.
I'm glad you brought that up.
You should.
I didn't actually work, but I did serve with Sherry Gaten-Dago on her campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And being in that environment led me, this is fresh off the press as of yesterday, I am officially on the ballot
All right.
for this upcoming election as precinct delegate for
Excellent.
Precinct 359. Okay?
Excellent.
So I will be consulting with you about that. And as you know, that position is the liaison between our community and
It's
our
important.
constituents.
It's important. It's important.
I feel it is.
Yes.
I saw it and hear that, the organization that you began in Southwest Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And I always joke and say, I am Southwest Detroit. But really I am, because I grew up there. I graduated from high school there.
Mm-hmm.
Even had to go to summer school there. And then I left, was a foreign exchange student, went to Mexico.
Excellent.
Went away to college. But came back, even lived in Atlanta, but came back and put my business in Southwest Detroit.
Exactly.
And that is a feeling of just nostalgia.
Yes.
Just nostalgia, being able to have a business. because that used to be an area that was forgotten about, Karina.
Absolutely. Nobody cares about the foot. Nobody cares about the foot.
Mm-mm.
48217.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a differentiation between Southwest and Southwest.
Okay,
There's a
see, I'm
Mexican
Southwest. I'm
Southwest.
the Mexican
Exactly. And then there's
Southwest.
the other
Yeah, it
Southwest.
is.
So people don't
It's
understand
the
that
BMF
either.
Southwest.
Hey,
It's the BMF
it is.
Southwest.
It is.
Uh-huh.
But it was important to you to give back to where you came from.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's important for other young girls in your neighborhood to
Mhm.
see. That's important. But when you work on a campaign, you are able to articulate why you are passionate about something.
Yeah.
It's nothing more humbling than knocking on the door and trying to convince somebody to vote for who you need them to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
And if
That'll
you,
be my next thing, is
exactly,
knocking on doors.
and people don't do that anymore. The pandemic stopped a lot of that. And the person I voted for in these last couple elections were the people that actually came to my door. I wasn't home, but I looked at my ring
Yeah.
camera. I said, "This candidate came to my door."
Yeah.
That takes a lot to do that
It does. In this day.
in this day.
Yeah.
It's not safe, and it's humbling to be able to have that conversation with somebody and try to convince them, hey, you should vote for me and this is why, or
Yeah.
you should vote for this candidate and this
Yeah.
is why. So people should do that at least twice in their lives. Entrepreneurship and work on a
And
campaign.
say that some more. So, how was it working with Chantel Jenkins?
Oh.
So, were you
I
actually
had
knocking
nev-
on the door?
Yes, I have never worked on a campaign in my entire life.
That was
but
your first time?
yes,
How did
Chantel
you
is my
even get
friend.
there? Okay.
She's my friend, and I knew she needed to be on the council. And that was a very tumultuous
believe that?
time. Yes,
Yeah.
that was after Kwame was.
We had just went broke.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And she did not have name recognition. People knew her in the city, but the first person that won was Charles Pugh. He was on the radio and on TV,
Yeah.
and Gary Brown. He
Yeah.
was on the radio and TV.
Uh-huh.
She came in third place, and that was because she had a team of people that literally we went out and knocked on doors. We drove around. We went to every community event, but it was humbling. But it was also so inspiring to sit there and talk about somebody that you believed in. I believed in her,
Yeah.
and I
'Cause
knew
she didn't have a name, because
She
Detroit
didn't.
votes off
name recognition. That's it. People get in office that should not be based off name recognition. Let's be
Yeah.
100 about it.
So you had to not only, I don't want to say convince people, but educate people. on why they
Educate
should
them.
vote, but put her name out there.
Yes, and that is so important. And I think Obama showed how impressive it was
Mhm.
because people had yard signs and never had yard signs because they believed in his message.
Oh, yeah.
So if you believe in somebody, it's not hard for you to go out there and campaign for them.
Mhm.
So it's important that you understand that. So I had never worked in a campaign, but I knew I had enough skills to see through what I need to see through. I'm very organized. I was able to put together. You wouldn't believe, and she was citywide. She wasn't a district.
Okay.
So we had to do the whole entire city of Detroit. Detroit is huge.
Yes, it is.
And it's areas that nobody want to go to, and we went to. Okay.
And got those votes.
Got those votes. And she came in third place. So that
Mhm.
was huge. That was
Yeah.
huge.
Awesome. Got to give a quick shout out to you're watching Beauty and the D, hosted by yours truly, where we focus on power, wealth, and style. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, as well as other top social media platforms. So please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. So we're here today with Miss Karina Jackson, the COO of Mariners Inn, and we're talking about giving, volunteering, and just our community in general. So I want to go back real quick to the Mariners Inn
Yes.
and talk about, you said that you guys have like outpatient treatment programs. Could you please talk about that for the person who may need a 12-step program?
Yes,
And how they
absolutely.
can contact you.
Yes. So, Mariners not only offers residential treatment, so we have room for 150 people to live on site,
Wow.
but it's only men. But we are currently, and if you go to our website at marinersinn.org, you can see that we are building a new building. So we're going to have affordable apartments there, and we're going to move our residential program from the building it's currently in to the new building. So we'll have 44 individual apartments for men and women, so it'll be open to women as well, fully furnished. And then our residential treatment program, residential housing program will be also be moving to the fourth floor. I'm sorry, recovery housing. So this is the next step after you receive treatment
Okay.
is a housing program to help you work on your skills as far as education and eventually help you find housing.
So it's levels. It's
Yes,
like,
it is absolutely levels.
okay, so the one house that we went to, you
Mhm.
didn't go over there with us. but
Right.
It looks like a frat house.
Yes,
right?
it does.
It's like real historic
Yes.
Detroit. First of all, the architecture of this
Yes.
building. I mean, I love it. So, and it just went all the way to
The
the top.
top.
It
It's
was an
three
actual
levels.
three floor.
Yes.
Yes. So that side has transitional housing as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So is that side will be moved over to the new side?
Yes. So the whole
What will
fourth
then
floor.
happen to that?
So the beauty of that is, even though that building is like 114 years
Mm.
old, we will need renovation. But we hope to expand more programming in that building after we renovate it. What I would love to see, and we're still working out the
Okay.
details, is a place for women with
Yes.
children to come and receive treatment. Because what people don't understand is, you go to treatment as a mother, your kids have to go with someone else or go with Child Protective Services. There's no programs where you can bring your child with you when you get
While
treatment.
you're here.
Yeah. So that's something that hopefully at some point we will be able to do at Mariners. We don't have anything in place yet, but if a person wants to get outpatient, so say you don't want to go into a treatment program,
Uh-huh.
but you know you have an addiction problem,
Uh-huh.
you can be a part of our outpatient program. You come once or twice a week, depending on the level of care that you need,
Uh-huh.
and you can receive therapy services. Now, there are different levels again of addiction, and when you're working with somebody actively, you would hope that they aren't actively using. So there is some harm reduction scenarios where people will still use to the point that they
Well,
don't have
of
to use
course,
anymore.
because that's why
Exactly.
they're coming.
Exactly.
To
Exactly.
get off of it. Because if they was able to get off of it and just come, they wouldn't have no reason
Exactly.
to be
So at any time, anybody who would like to receive outpatient services can call Mariners Inn,
Yeah.
and that number is 313-962-9446 at any time, and let somebody know that you need assistance. So Mariners is a 24-hour facility, so people can just walk through the door and ask
Really?
for assistance. Absolutely. Even through the pandemic, we were open the entire time.
Again, a jewel in the community. Like, people need to know, especially you men. Men, you need to know that there
Yes.
is a place for you to go
Yes.
and get treatment and be healed and work through your issues. And your families are encouraged to be a part
Yes.
of that as well.
Exactly.
How do you assist with their families, Karina?
So we have a program called the Strengthening Families Program,
Mhm.
and that's a family reunification program. So say you've either been in prison, or you've been in treatment, or you've been homeless, and you have not had any communication with your own family.
Mhm.
We have staff that will reach out to your family, and for 14 weeks we have a program, and it's a parenting component for the parents, and it's a prevention component for the kids. So the kids are learning how not to get involved in risky behavior, drug addiction, and the parents are learning how to parent again. And the beauty of this program is, when you go through the training as a facilitator, you have to implement that in your own life. So I went through it early on, and it's a change in how you discipline your kids. We discipline our kids differently, but we discipline our kids based on how our parents disciplined us.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I first started working in the school, I would yell. I yelled all the time. My mother had 8 kids, so if you she was yelling all the time. So I'm doing what my mother did. And my friend Jackie, who I did the program with, she was like, "Why are you yelling at them? Like, you don't have to yell at them." I'm like, "That's all I know." So it's like learning how to discipline without yelling, without beating.
Yeah.
We come from an environment where people beat their kids.
Because we got beat.
We got beat. If our parents got beat, and their parents got beat, and their parents got beat, out of safety, there was a difference.
And, that too, but it's the mindset,
Yeah.
right? Because we came from a time of slavery,
Yes.
right? Where they
Yes.
had to beat us, quote unquote, to get their point across.
Exactly.
And since it was good for them to beat us, then we started treating each other like that. Even right now, that's why
Even
we
right now.
treat each other, even mentally,
Yes.
in certain ways. I hate to blame stuff on slavery, but it's the truth.
Don't
you
get me
know?
started on that, because I have a whole list of stuff that's
It's
where our trauma.
generational curses.
That's where our trauma comes from.
Yes.
And that's why we beat because we were beaten.
Yes.
That's just the reality of it. You know what I'm saying? And some of our parents felt like, if I beat you now, I'll keep you in control so you won't go out there and get in trouble. It's a mindset that has to be changed.
It's mine.
So through our training, you do things like behavior modification, giving kudos when you should, giving them
Yeah.
responsibility and rewarding them. That's something we never did. You got beat or you did it. That's it.
Right. Or you did it. Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to talk about one more thing that you've done.
Yes.
And then you want to
Okay.
Because I
Okay.
told you it's like 2 parts. You like an onion, girl. So we pulling back layers. The first part was the COO,
Yes.
Miss Jackson.
Yes.
And then I want to come on over and talk
Okay.
about Karina. So, Miss Jackson, the youth program for I'm sorry, it's so
There's so much.
and I mean that in a good way.
Yes.
I don't want to like minimize anything. Okay, so we talked a little bit about she, but not really.
No, we didn't. I don't want
Okay,
to talk about
can
she.
you talk about she,
Yes,
the Strong Healthy Empower program?
yes. Which I would love to have you be a guest for
Sure.
that program as well. So we started noticing. So we also have a youth employment program, Grow Detroit Young Talent, which
Yeah.
we talked to your daughter about. So young people are able to come and work, and the city provides us funding in order to pay them to work. What we noticed when we were interviewing is that a lot of the girls were coming and they weren't prepared. I mean,
What
like
you mean?
hair wasn't combed,
Oh,
clothes
like
dirty.
that.
I mean, there were things we were like, and then we would still hire them, of course.
Of course.
But once they got on the job site, we were having other issues. They were coming to work late, not showing up, being inappropriate with some of the male staff, and we're like, we're setting these girls up for failure. We have to work with them because they may not be getting what they need at home. We can't assume that everybody gets what they need at home.
Right.
So we decided let's work with them for a whole year before we send them out to work in the summer.
And what's this age group? I'm just curious.
14 to 21.
Okay.
And and because we also offer mental health services, and the age that people really can make an impact is at 14, when they can be able to receive services on their own.
Okay.
So 14 to 21. So we work with them on prevention services, mental health services, employment opportunities, and a lot of social skills. A lot of these young ladies don't have the social skills, so they didn't know when they go to a workplace that you shouldn't be on your phone the whole time, or you shouldn't be having
A lot of
inappropriate.
these kids don't know that, and even older than that.
Older
But go
than that,
ahead.
adults.
You see them at the Family Dollars and the
Yes.
McDonald's and the.
Yes. So we decided we would start working with these young ladies for a whole year. I think we're about at the 8th or 9th year doing this with the young ladies
Oh my
now.
goodness.
And they do, so we do an empowerment camp. So they go up north for 3 days, and they have time to focus on themselves to help build the self-esteem,
This is beautiful.
team building. It's
So
beautiful.
these are girls that, brown and black girls that look
Yes,
like me
yes,
and my daughter?
Yes, who have suffered with addiction in their families, who have suffered with homelessness.
Okay.
Most of the young ladies we dealt with have either been homeless or have someone in their family that is addicted to some type of substance. So these are young ladies that most people don't want to work with,
Yeah.
and they need help the most.
Absolutely.
They need the most. So we work with them, and a lot of times what ends up happening is their families start coming to the Strength and Families program. Their fathers may come for treatment, because now we're working with a family member that never received help before. So they're having different conversations with their families when they go home.
Yeah.
So we've dealt with all kind of issues. We have different people come in, speakers. We have dine and discuss. So they'll have dinner with a woman that will come and speak to them.
Yeah.
Even men have come and spoken to them.
Okay.
I can't just say
Yeah.
women. But we have a mentorship program, so they're able to have a mentor.
Okay.
If they need hygiene products, we're always available to give them hygiene products. So we just have a sorority came out and gave us a bunch of hygiene products. If they have children, they can bring their children to the program. We do yoga, sound bath. We do everything we can to help with their wellness as well as their mental health.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
How is this program funded, Karina?
So we are currently funded through private donations, through some foundations, and we're working with Detroit Wayne Mental Health Services to provide funds as well.
Okay.
We do a fundraiser once a year called the Tilted Crown Affair, where we give an award to a woman who is strong, a woman who is healthy, and a woman who is empowered.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we usually do that around August. But that's a way also to highlight other women who are doing great things in the city of
Yes.
Detroit, who
And
don't
let
always.
these young women see that.
Yes, absolutely. And this past summer, the 3 ladies that we had to receive awards, one of them is Dr. Elam, and she runs Energy for Life, which is off of Mac, and I go there to get colonics. And yes.
I used to go to on Grand River.
Yes, everybody used to go on Grab
And I'm
Road.
like,
So
I didn't
she's
know
on
where
Mac.
she's
She's not that far.
African-American?
Yes.
Okay,
And
sorry,
Dr. Elam, and it's called ELAM, and it's called Energy for Life, and it's on Mag. It's right before you get to Grosse Pointe. And she suffered loss of both her kids had passed, and she talked about that. But she also talked about wellness. It's important, She does colonics. She has an infrared machine. She does
What's
a
the
foot bath.
infrared machine?
Oh, infrared is a different kind of sauna. It warms your core. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to still talk about
Yes.
she.
Yes.
But wait a minute, because I don't want to lose that
Yes.
thought. What is, and I'm sure a lot of people Have not heard of this.
Yes, and I'm not an expert on it,
Uh-huh.
but infrared machine is a different type of sauna. It's it it's like a heat therapy, depending on what parts of your body need a different type of healing. So there are different lights that are used at different temperatures, and the heat can get up to 115 degrees. But it's a different way of cleansing.
So, okay, so what when we're talking about the infrared and we're talking, you already be so deep with it. We're talking about the infrared. First of all, let me get the tag again. You're watching Beauty in the Z, where we focus on power, wealth, and style, hosted by yours truly, Stephanie Coney. We are live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and other social media platforms. So please like, follow, subscribe, and comment. Also, you can call in at 313-355-6018 if you have any questions for Miss Karina Jackson. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Back to the infrared. So the infrared, so like, okay, sometimes I have like back pain, right? Is that good for that? Because
Yes,
saying like
knee pain.
therapy.
It's certain things, and again, I'm not an expert, so
Okay.
but there are certain things that if your body is hurting in certain ways, there's certain types of temperature and light that can be used.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just a different way to do things. People go to chiropractors, you
Yeah.
know, it's different things you can do. An infrared machine is one of those other options, and she has that available at Energy for Life.
Okay, so
Yes.
Dr. Elima, Energy for Life, was
Yes.
one of the recipients of the award.
Yes,
And then, I'm sorry,
yes.
who were the other
But it
two?
was important for the young lady to see a doctor,
Yes.
a black woman, an entrepreneur, and someone who has suffered through trauma but has been able to move on.
Yes.
So we try to find women who are not the average women who always get awards in Detroit.
Right.
You know, it's a lot of awards in Detroit. So
It is.
our She Tilted Crown affair is, even though your crown is tilted, doesn't mean you're not a queen.
Oh, I love it. So these are women who have gone through something and
Yes.
overcome it.
Yes.
Something traumatic, and they have turned their pain into passion.
Yes. Or they're
Something
just
positive.
successful. They're mentoring. Danielle North received an award. Jahan Crump Gibson, who was a very good attorney in the city of Detroit, she received her first award. Courtney Smith, who runs Detroit Phoenix Center, she's awesome young lady. So we try to find people who are doing the work,
Yes.
and people don't always get to see those people.
They don't.
Yeah.
We, you know, it's about facade and
Yes.
you know, aesthetics.
Yes.
And maybe, and then some of us hide behind our pain because we're embarrassed about it,
Yes.
or we're ashamed, or we're still working through it. Even though we
Yes.
come out every day and,
And
we
look
put on
beautiful.
this face, we're
Yes.
still dealing with it.
Yes.
Which goes right into the subject of you. So you have also a commitment to civic engagement.
Mhm.
But you also have a dedication to personal and professional growth.
Mhm.
Let's talk about your personal journey.
Yes. So it's interesting because my life now is not what it was prior to February 2022. You know, the pandemic impacted all of us
It did.
in a huge way. I think a lot of us are still dealing with the trauma from dealing with COVID.
Mhm.
So in February 2022, around that time, and we talking about after COVID, so we're all trying to get back to normal.
We're trying to get back to normal.
Trying to get back to normal.
Get back to taking trips. And,
Yes. So I was actually getting sick, but I was ignoring it. So I was also a caregiver for my mother who has Alzheimer's. So that's something within itself.
It
And
is.
anybody who's a
Caregiver.
caregiver, especially with Alzheimer's, you never know what you're going to deal with. It's different stuff all the time. So
How does Alzheimer's relate to dementia? Is it the
same. This is
different?
the next level, I think.
Alzheimer's is the next
Level
from
of dementia.
Okay.
Yeah, I think dementia is the early signs. Alzheimer's is it's even deeper. So
Okay.
she got diagnosed. So some people are not diagnosed. I think you have to go through that process. Some people say, you know, they got some timers and all that kind of stuff. You know,
Mhm.
we always got a name for something. But Alzheimer's, you can be diagnosed. So you go through a test and they diagnose you as having a low level of memory. You've lost quite a bit of your memory. Alzheimer's more so they remember long term, they remember short term. So they would have just did something and then do it again because they thought they didn't do it. You know, so it's different levels. So I'm not an expert again, but
Gotcha.
my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I'm the youngest of all her kids. I don't have any kids. I'm not married, so people. So
So
my,
you was the one.
I was the
The
one.
chosen one.
I was a chosen one. Exactly. I'm the youngest, but I've always been deemed Big Ma in my family,
Okay.
which is weird. And we all know Big Ma is usually an older woman, black woman who
They had a
takes care of the
bunch of
whole
kids,
family. You
yeah.
have a bunch of kids, and she whooping everybody, which I would still do that. But I wasn't big. I wasn't old, but.
Uh-huh.
I did all the planning, everything like that. So it just made sense for me to go back there and we work it out. During that time frame, though, I was starting to suffer physically. I was having 5 to 6 headaches a day,
Wow.
which is so crazy when I listen to migraine commercials and they say if you have 5 to 6 headaches a month, and I'm like, I had that many a day. So I'm steady popping Tylenol. I'm
How
just
long
like
did this go on? It started in February, but it went on for how long?
to almost August,
Wow.
and
Were you popping, eating Tylenols like?
I had them in my desk at work. I had them in my car. I was never without Tylenol.
Almost like you was addicted to them because you was hurt.
Yeah, and again, I'm like I'm stressed out because I'm dealing with some family issues. I'm dealing with my mom. I'm
Yeah.
still working full time.
Uh-huh.
So in my mind, I'm a control freak. I'm a Virgo. I'm a control freak.
Okay.
So everything got to lay out right. So I'll deal with that. I deal with it. But what I was also experiencing and denying was I was dizzy. I was fainting. I was having panic attacks. I had never had a panic attack. I was throwing up, and I'm every time I'm like, oh, it's stress. It's stress. It's stress.
Even with the fainting though, Karina?
Even with the fainting, it's amazing what you can convince yourself of.
Uh-huh.
And my friends were like, something's wrong. My mother, who has Alzheimer's, kept saying, something's wrong.
And she has Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and she was
Got
like, are you okay? And I'm
And you
like,
like,
yeah,
"No, I'm
I'm
good."
good. I'm good. So I was going to a chiropractor, which is so funny. So I started looking up WebMD. I'm on Google. Oh, yeah, I probably got vertigo. Black people, we always
You
think we got
diagnosed
vertigo.
yourself.
Oh, yeah. So I decided to go to a chiropractor. And a chiropractor will give you an x-ray.
Mhm.
An x-ray does not show what an MRI shows. So they were like, oh, you got good insurance. So I'm going to a chiropractor 3 days a week.
Oh, girl, he was milking it.
They was cracking my neck 3 days a week, okay?
In your pocket.
And my pockets, because they had you pay everything up front. Like, oh, you got good insurance, you got to pay your copay. So I'm like, oh, this chiropractor working. I'm good. But I still went to see my doctor. And she's like, don't go to that chiropractor anymore. Like,
Your doctor said that.
she was very anti-chiropractor, but she was
Okay.
like, there's something else. So she referred me to a therapist, so I started seeing the therapist, and she's
Mhm.
helping me work through my issues. I'm like, I'm good, I'm
She's
good.
Still thinking it's stress.
I still think it's stress, but I'm still fainting, still dizzy. I'm driving to work. I have to wait when I get to work, like a couple minutes before I get the car, because I'm so dizzy from driving. And eventually, my boss said, "You can't come back to work," because I had fell in front of him. I'm like, "No, I tripped." He
no.
said, "You didn't trip. There was nothing on that floor. You just fell out. Don't come back to work until you see a doctor." So, go see my doctor. She gave me a referral for MRI. So, if you see a neurologist also deal with Alzheimer's. There are so many people with Alzheimer's and dementia that it is very hard.
Functional.
Yes, it's very hard to get an appointment with a neurologist. So I got a referral. I called to make an appointment from the car, and it still was 4 weeks before I can go to the doctor. So, in the meantime, I stopped going to the chiropractor.
Okay.
I stopped going to work. I started working remotely, but I'm still like, I'm good, I'm good. And I remember my cousin was over, we were eating, and she said, "Does your eye hurt?" I said, "No." She said, "You're blinking, and your right eye is wide open every time you blink." And I'm like, what?
What?
She was like, something is wrong with the right side of your face. And again, I'm like, nah, I'm good, because I convinced myself through WebMD, I got vertigo. I got vertigo, okay? I got vertigo. So I go, my best friend Natalie takes me, because I can't drive. I'm not driving. I got enough sense not to drive. Go see a neurologist. She asked me to walk. I almost tripped, just walking down the hallway. She did an MRI, and she said, you have a tumor on your brainstem.
Oh my goodness.
And you have to go now, immediately, to have surgery. You cannot wait. Don't go home and get a bag. You have to have surgery immediately, because it was growing. They don't know how long it had been growing, but it had been growing inside my head. And it's, please excuse me for, this is better, because usually I'll be bawling, so I'm doing much better with telling the story. So I go to emergency, and this is why not only having an advocate is important, is you realizing that the healthcare system is not set up for black people, brown people, people who English is not their primary
Oh, yeah.
language, people who are uninsured, people who are overweight. It is not set up that way. I am intelligent, I'm informed, and I'm insured, and I had a traumatic experience dealing with this process.
Because they treated you like a check.
Yes. I'm talking about to the point that when you're in emergency, there's a person that goes around, they have a mobile desk and say, how are you paying your copay while you're laying in the bed in emergency? Okay.
And you are having emergency surgery.
Like, I don't care about a copay right now, but you do, but you care about that. So just think if I was uninsured, I would have just got up and left because I'd have been worried about how am I going to pay this bill. So luckily I was insured. Thank God I was insured. I thank God I was insured. So I go into the hospital. I could do a whole stand-up routine on the situations I went through in emergency, like literally. You have to laugh to keep from crying, but I was in the hospital a total of 27 days. I was in the hospital 3 different times. So the first time I was there to have brain surgery, and let me say this about the advocate too. My friend Natalie, she works remotely. She moved her home office into my emergency room, and every day she's in there with a notebook.
Friend.
That's a real friend. With a notebook saying, who are you? What are you here for? What do you do? And she told my surgeon, you would not do her surgery after lunch because I don't know if you drink on it. I don't know if you drink on your lunch.
Go, Natalie.
No. She should probably be your first surgery on a Monday so you have a weekend to rest. And that was his first surgery that Monday morning, 8 o'clock.
That's a good friend.
That's a good friend. That's a good advocate. And being there, I realized a lot of people don't have advocates. And they will do you any kind of way. They will come and talk to you after you've taken medication, you're out of it. They'll come and talk to you in the middle of the night. You don't know what you're saying. So I would always say, hold on. And I would call Natalie and say, tell her. And I'll call her back tomorrow and ask her what happened.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't have that, what kind of things are happening to you in a hospital setting?
I'm glad you said that.
Yes.
Can you talk to people, please,
Yes.
about that power of attorney?
Yes.
For medical, like, we all should have somebody like that on file.
All should have that on
I don't
file.
even think I have that on file. I have a will, but I don't have that.
I didn't have that until I had brain surgery because I didn't think it was important.
Right, and we just and then I want to go back to you being told you got to have brain surgery right now. I can only imagine what type of emotional state. I know you scared. Like, am I gonna get through this?
Yeah.
What's the risk?
It was on my brain stem.
It
It was on my brain stem, so they couldn't take all of it because I could have became paralyzed.
Oh God.
So the odds are there that it can come back. It can come back and grow. So I have to constantly
be tested.
And I also had the other 2 times I went to the hospital. I had to have a lumbar puncture because my head started filling with liquid because there is a
From the tumor?
from something in your brain. It's liquid that goes into your spine. And it wasn't doing that. It was just building up in my brain. So I did a lumbar puncture. That didn't work. So I had to get a shunt. So I have a lump right here in the front of my head. And I have that forever. So, and it's almost like my surgeon's assistant said that I'm a bionic woman because they have to fix the timing to make sure the flow of liquid is precise. So certain things will throw it off. Certain metals, magnets, it's magnetic, will throw it off. But again, if I didn't have that, my head would fill with liquid and it could cause infection and I could die. So those were the 3 times I had to go to the hospital. But
in 27 days.
Yeah. And let me say this also about healthcare. Out of those 27 days I was in the hospital, I only had the same nurse 2 times.
So do you think that it's a high turnover rate?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And with every nurse, I had to explain to every nurse why I was there. What are you here for? What, you know. So I had at least 50 nurses.
Some probably weren't.
Some absolutely were not. Some were just traveling nurses. And they were like, I'm just here to get my check and I'm out, you know. So the idea that the people that I needed to help me recover were not always what I needed at that time. So that's why it was important for me to realize I got to do what I need to do for myself.
In almost 30 days, you only had the same nurse twice. That's almost unbelievable.
Yeah, I had over 50 nurses because each shift is a new nurse. So you got to tell them why you're there, medication times. And because I was not, now mind you, I was considered to have a traumatic brain injury. So I'm on the traumatic brain injury floor.
Intensive care is what I'm thinking. So you would think that those would be dedicated nurses. That's just what I'm thinking.
Intensive care was the only place I had the same nurse.
Okay, the 2. Okay.
And in physical therapy, I had the same nurse in physical therapy.
Okay.
But in the emergency room, I had over 50 nurses that I met with, and
Wow.
I'm talking about some of them were so nasty. And because I didn't make a lot of noise, because again, we're talking about people who have traumatic brain injuries. There's a lot of people that were in emergency that were detoxing. I was in a room with somebody who was detoxing from a heroin overdose. Okay, so I'm like, she has a whole different set of issues than I do, but because of staffing, I got to be
You
in there.
clocked it. Right.
I'm in there with everybody else. So again, if I wasn't speaking up for myself, if I didn't have an advocate, my situation would have been worse than what it was.
Yeah.
But the idea that I was in rooms sometimes with people who needed severe mental health services, and you have them in a room with somebody else, I know enough so I know what to say and do. Somebody else wouldn't necessarily know what to say or do.
Yeah.
It's terrible. So I think through this process, I know through this process, I'm I say I'm a wellness activist because the system needs to be dismantled. People in the know and people who run hospitals and healthcare need to understand that you got to do this differently.
Yes.
People of color are suffering because of the mental health services they receive or they don't receive.
That more times that
They don't receive.
and how they're treated.
And absolutely how they are treated. I got COVID one of the times when I was in the hospital. So I was isolated for 10 days. I was in 10-day quarantine. And that was my whole physical therapy. And I was in so much pain. And they kept saying, "You're fine."
They're
No, 'cause
telling you.
they think black women are superheroes. And I said to nurse, "You think
Like
a
we
black
just
woman is a
take all kind
superhero?"
of pain.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They are taught that. And he said, my wife is a nurse, and she was taught that black women can take more pain. I said, "We can't." I could not walk. Like, that was my only symptom, is I couldn't walk. It was so weird. So I just laid in the bed and had muscle spasms for 10 days. And they kept telling me, "You're fine, you're okay." Until I started crying with my care and tears. I had to do that in order for them to give me medication. Because this black woman's strong, she could take it. No, I can't take it. And I shouldn't have to take it.
And I shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's sad. Oh, it's like being strong and having strength is a gift and a curse.
It
isn't
is. It absolutely
It's
is.
a gift and a curse.
It absolutely is.
So, how did you get to the point of becoming an actor? And I
So,
want you to talk about the balloon transfer. We gonna get
Yes,
to all of that.
yes,
How
yes.
did you get to this activist?
so me and my hard-headedness, I tried to hurry up through my recovery. The first time I had the brain tumor surgery, and I was like, I got to get back to work. And I tried to rush through
At
that.
the brain surgery career?
I was like, I got to get back to work. Here's the one thing. Being a control freak, I had no control. I couldn't do anything.
That was God showing you.
You sit down or you're going to get sat down. Your mama tell you that all the time. So I was to a point where I felt like I got to get back to work. I got stuff to do. And it's like, nothing is that important. That's what I realized after the third surgery. And I said, in the third surgery,
It
which
took
was
you
the
that.
it was the installation of the shunt. It was very painful. The recovery took longer than actually the tumor being removed. Actually, I remember when they gave me my pain meds. They gave me pain meds for 45 days. They just don't give you pain meds for more than a
Mm-mm.
week. And I said, "Is this an indication?" They said, "Oh, you're gonna need these." And I'm like, "Oh, I won't need. Oh, I needed them." And at that point, I decided, if you don't get well, you're not gonna make it.
So how long were you down?
I was off work for 6 months. You would never told me as
Were
long
you
as.
well rested after that?
Oh yeah, I had to rest, and I brought this book with me because this is the book that changed my life.
Because you won't believe. We only got 2 minutes left this time. We're about to fast.
Are you serious?
Yes. Please
Rest
talk
is
about-
resistance. This book,
I need that.
I read this book during my recovery, and I rested. It is a disservice to our ancestors not to rest
Why so?
because they were not allowed to.
Mm.
They were not allowed to.
That's why we don't know how to. I don't
We-
know how.
we don't
Even
know
when
how
I
to.
go get a massage, it's hard for me too.
Rest is not a privilege. Rest is a human right. I don't have to earn rest. I don't have to earn rest. You don't have to be part of this grind culture, and you being killed internally, trying to make a difference. When you really, if you don't rest, you can't do anything else. So rest is what made the difference for me. I can't believe we went through all this time.
I know. Can you please give a shout out to the book for
Yes,
our,
Trisha
audience?
Hersey, Rest is Resistance. There's a rest deck that comes with it, and that's what I just read from. There's a deck of cards, 52 cards, a different card for each week for you to read
Mm.
and meditate on. And last but not least, we just want to talk about Bloom Transformational.
Please.
It is
Did that help with
located.
your stress?
Yes,
Okay.
it's located on Iron Street off Jefferson. They do yoga, sound therapy. I went to a session there. Their sound therapy. If you've never done sound therapy, it's life changing.
What is it? And Roger just going to be mad because we gonna have to go over real quick. I need you to say what sound therapy
Sound
is.
therapy is when you are at a state of rest, usually laying down or sitting down, and they use chimes, gongs, and bowls. And each one represents a different level of your body that needs recovery. So if somebody is really good, and most people don't do it unless they're really good, but depending on what the sound does, it impacts your body and it helps you rest.
How long is this?
It's usually 45 minutes or an hour, depending on the
What's
sessions.
The age group?
Oh, any age. We do it with our clients. We're gonna start doing it with the young ladies in the She program. I went to one just recently with a sorority, and this young lady goes place to place. She'll go to your house. But
Okay.
Bloom is the actual. They do yoga and sound therapy on the river once the weather gets warm.
Awesome.
Yes.
For people, first of all, Karina, could you please come back again?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to.
And for people that want to contact you or even get help with a loved one at the Mariners Inn, can you please give me your information?
Yes. At Mariners Inn, absolutely. The phone number is 313-962-9446. Our website is marinersinn.org, and we also are on Instagram and on Facebook. So even if you send a message through there, you're not ready to come in, we'll get the message. Somebody will reach out to you.
And if somebody wants to come and talk to you about your wellness activism, how
Yes.
can they contact you?
They can contact me through Instagram, and I'm at just Karina Jackson. And I also have a website, karinajackson.com, so you can check me out on both of those.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
for being here.
yes,
I
thank
appreciate
you. That went past
Oh
so
my goodness,
fast.
that information, just lovely. I love
Thank
everything
you.
about you. I love your hair. I love how you keep yourself going.
Thank
and,
you.
Thank you for all that you do.
Thank
for
you so much, Stephanie.
our
I
community.
appreciate it.
Yes, and we want to come and volunteer again. Oh, somebody wants to volunteer before we go. They want to volunteer at the Mariners Inn.
Contact
How
Mariners
can they?
Inn on the
Okay.
website. Contact call the phone number 962-9446, and we'll direct you to the right person. Yes.
Thank you all again for watching Beauty in the D, where we focus on power, wealth, and style. Hosted by yours truly, Stephanie Coney. We'll see you next week, every Saturday from 1 to 2. Thank you,
Yay.
teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was
You
awesome.
get so much